Well, good morning, everyone. Great to see some familiar faces coming back. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Very excited to hear this morning's presentation. As many of you already know, my name is Gavin Atwood. I am the CEO of the Brain Injury Alliance of Colorado. I'm joined by Tina and Jamie, who have really done the heavy lifting when it comes to putting this series together. As you know, I've said this before, we're very fortunate in having some sponsors that allow for this series to go ahead. We have two presenting sponsors, Brain Care out of Colorado Springs. It's a long-term residential facility. I've been an amazing partner for a long time. And the second one is Encompass Health Rehabilitation, also in Colorado Springs, which is a hospital, a rehabilitation hospital that is committed to helping patients regain independence after a life-changing illness or injury. So we really appreciate that. Both Flourish Supported Living in Denver and Colorado Brain Recovery in the Northern Colorado area are also sponsors. So that said, before I hand over, I did want to just make an announcement. And that is that we will be putting on, or we will be sending out information about a bonus webinar that is going to happen in February. The exact date, TBD, but I'm excited by the content. I'm not going to say any more till we get it actually nailed down, but I do just want to say there will be one more bonus webinar in February. Then we have one in January anyway, right, Tina? We have two in January, which already, is we've sent out. So this is going to be an extra one in February. So please look out for that. Okay, that said, I am going to hand over to Jamie, who is going to introduce our speaker today.
Thank you, Gavin. And thanks for the little teaser too. Bonus webinar. So just kind of going over some housekeeping things. Most of you have heard this before. So just remembering that we ask that you all stay muted. We will have an opportunity for Q&A at the end. You are welcome to drop in burning questions or comments in the chat feature as we go along. Please feel free to use that. We are recording this webinar because we want to make it available to everyone afterwards. So if you don't want your image ending up on the recording, you are welcome to turn your camera off. And just a reminder that you will get a Survey Monkey following the webinar, and please fill that out, particularly if you are wanting to get CEs. That's the only way that we can verify that you attended the whole thing. So I want to introduce our speakers, Melanie Honsbruch and Christensen. Melanie is a curriculum developer and trainer with a specialty in benefits counseling. She works for the Colorado Office of Employment First, where she also serves as the lead contact for the Colorado DB 101 project. She has supported people with disabilities for 22 years, with 17 of those years focused on benefits counseling, and is the Benefits Counseling Program Coordinator with the Colorado Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, and has worked with people with disabilities in various roles for 25 years. She is working to build capacity for benefits counseling and improve the service statewide. She is a certified benefits counselor and has a Master's of Science in Rehabilitation Counseling. So thank you, Melanie and Anne. I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks so much, Jamie. And good morning, everyone. We're super excited to be here with you virtually today. Melanie is coming to you from Denver, and I am up in Dillon, where hopefully we'll be getting some snow soon, along with many of you. And just so you know, my work from home colleague, Buzz, is behind me, and he thinks that he's a cat, so he might want to pop up and say a few words or get into the mix here today. And just a little bit, for those who don't know about DVR, which is the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, the agency that I work for, if you're interested in returning to work, if you're interested in exploring that possibility, we have offices across the state, and they're working with people obviously remotely right now. But they can help figure out, what do I want to do for work, and what services and supports are going to be necessary for me to be successful in returning to work. And so, I know we're preaching to the choir as in terms of a brain injury, but even if you may not be able to go back to what you did previous to your brain injury, there's a lot of possibilities and things that you can do and explore. So please definitely reach out to us for that. And I'll let Melanie talk a little bit about what office does.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming to listen to us today. I think we got a lot of great information for you. Like Ann said, and Jamie, I work for the Colorado Office of Employment First. We're a new office. We're about a year in operation, but we are charged with promoting and enhancing employment opportunities for people with disabilities, with all disabilities. And we're really focusing as well on people with the most significant disabilities and improving people's options when it comes to work. So that's kind of a nutshell statement about what the office does. One of the focuses under the office is benefits counseling, and that's my specialty. So that's what we're here to talk with you about today. So thank you for coming.
And before we introduce today's topics, I just want to mention that don't worry about furiously taking notes or writing down our contact information. Jamie mentioned this webinar is being recorded. You're going to get a copy of the slides. And also we have a resource guide for you that has all of the links and information that we're sharing with you today. So you can just sit back and relax and kind of absorb the information. And of course, type questions into the chat as you have them, or you can save them for the end, as Jamie mentioned. So what we're going to talk about today is the impact of work. I always kind of chuckle at this guy on the slide because he just has a really funny look on his face, and I think it's very memeable. But so the impact of work, what are the benefits of work? Obviously, besides a paycheck and a source of income, but really how does work affect our emotional, financial, social well-being, etc. And then we're going to really get into the meat of benefits counseling. Melanie's going to talk about what are benefits, what is benefits counseling, what does this mean? And then obviously the what, when to access, why to access, and how to access benefits counseling. We will be one of the links in the resource guide, and Melanie's going to talk about it a little bit too, is a benefits counseling guide that's available to everyone in Colorado that has all of the certified benefits counselors across the state. And it's a really good intro to what is this and how can I access it. And then our last section of today's webinar is just to give you kind of a brief overview and glimpse of some really powerful work incentives that Social Security has for folks who are receiving SSDI and SSI. And I know we do throw a lot of acronyms at you throughout this. It's not super important that you know those, but anyone receiving a disability benefit from Social Security has these work incentives that can help them try out work and really improve their financial situation. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk to you about today. And I'm looking in the chat from Melanie, and I am happy to speak with you after the, please call me or email me after this webinar, and I'd be happy to talk to you about that experience with DVR. And thank you for that information. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in. And this was on the rolling slides before the webinar started, and we didn't just make this up, and obviously it makes a lot of sense. People who are working tend to have happier and healthier lives than those who are not working. And we'll talk about that in a little more detail. And so on the next slide, what does it mean? What is a social determinant of health? they've done a lot of research about different factors that influence our, again, emotional, physical, cognitive, social, financial well-being. And so a lot of that is determined by where we decide to live, where we go to school, where we're employed, where we recreate or play, worship, and age. And so one of the main categories that you can see on the screen is economic stability. Obviously, that you can understand why that is key to a person's well-being. And the biggest factor in that category is work, is having a job. And I know, again, that I'm probably preaching to the choir here. There are other factors. If you've experienced a brain injury and you've had to go to PT, OT, specialists, etc., you probably are experiencing medical bills, and that certainly impacts economic stability. Even if you have the greatest health insurance policy in the world, you're probably likely experiencing those medical bills that can really impact your financial and economic stability. And so on the next slide, this is a pretty grim statistic, and it's not to be negative, but it's just to kind of point out that while 3/4 of adults in the United States who do not experience a disability are working, only about 1/3 are. And just to follow up with this information, there's obviously a lot of factors that go into why the employment rates for people with disabilities are so low, and it's something that we want to change. And benefits counseling is a way that we can change that. And it's not also because people with disabilities don't want to work. Studies have shown they do want to work. They really want to work. There's a lot of factors as to why, and barriers keeping them from exploring work, returning to work, trying work. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit today. But just so you know, DVR, and there's a lot of other agencies that provide employment supports for people who do want to pursue employment. And this is, again, another statistic to just say that it makes sense, right? If you are injured, you experience a brain injury or experience another type of disability, and you're unable to work, how are you going to pay the bills? And so, but one of the things about this is that folks with disabilities have been the highest subgroup in the United States of, of living in poverty for the past 17 years. So again, it's just to show that we want this to change, and anyone, regardless of how severe your disability is or what your disability is, deserves the opportunity and access to employment. And I want to paint a little bit of a picture for a person who does receive Social Security benefits of probably what they experienced doing that. So let's say a person becomes injured and experiences a brain injury and can no longer work. So they apply for Social Security benefits. Most people do not get approved the first time around when they apply, whether it be SSDI or SSI. So then they can appeal and then wait for a hearing and try to obtain that way. On average, so again, it takes a lot more time, a lot of the time. It takes about 2 years. So between applying, the initial determination, the appeal, the hearing, and then being approved for it. So that's 2 years of a person's life where they cannot work, and they're waiting for these benefits. And as Melanie mentioned, it can take even longer than that. So even if a person wants to work on a scale of 1 to 10, at a 10, they have fought so hard to get those Social Security benefits that they are worried of what is going to happen to these. And not only Social Security benefits, but state and local benefits like food stamps and housing that they have sort of relied on as a safety net to float them through until maybe they can return to work. So you can see why no matter how much a person wants to go back to work who's receiving a benefit, they have concerns and questions and fears about it. They do, their family does, their employment support team does. And so benefits counseling is so important to remove those fears. There is also a ton of misinformation and myths out there. So while a person's waiting for their benefits, they're thinking, they're talking to people and somebody says, oh, if you go to work, they're going to take it away from you right away. And so there's just a lot of misinformation that also plays into that fear. And again, benefits counseling with a certified benefits counselor addresses that and lets this person know all of that accurate, timely information that they need so they can really make an informed choice about work. And so it's just so important. And now I will transition over to Melanie.
Thank you. And I know it seems like the chat's lighting up, so we can, Anne, if you want to take a look at that and see if we can answer any questions as I get through or start this. But if you're out there listening, think about what work does for you. You can type that in the chat and light it up even more if you want. But what does work do for you? Because work is not just about the money. I mean, we all work for money. Money is great. The money can provide, you may have seen on the rolling slides in the beginning, it can provide an opportunity for you to shop for the latest pair of shoes or to maybe attend a sporting event post-COVID. Maybe it's to go to happy hour with your friends or to eat a meal out, get Uber Eats, whatever it is. So the money part of work is great, but work can provide so much more than just the extra income. It provides a routine. It creates that routine that gives us stability and gives us confidence and calmness, I guess you could say. It can help us maintain a healthy lifestyle. That's through the income and through the routine. It might help us join a gym, or it might help us be able to eat healthy, things like that. Work also helps reduce the risk of depression. It gives us that routine. I'm going to mention in a little bit, it gives us a sense of purpose. And so the studies show that people that work, it reduces the risk of depression. Work also boosts self-esteem, can give you confidence. Maybe it's when you get a project done, or you assist somebody, a customer of yours, or you start your own business. That can all boost your self-esteem. All of those things in turn increase your independence. You're not as dependent possibly on those benefit programs that we're going to be talking about. Maybe you're not as dependent on your support system or a family member or your parents. It can also enhance your social interaction. Right now, our social interaction is probably primarily through the computer, but that's social interaction. It's a different kind, but it's social interaction. But when you go into the office or you go into your work site, regardless of what that is, and you're working with others, that's social interaction as well. And that all enhances our overall well-being, our health, our happiness. And then, as I just mentioned, it gives us a sense of purpose, a reason to get up and contribute to society, to contribute to your bank account, to contribute to your overall well-being. So really, anybody that exists should have the opportunity to go to work, whether you have a disability, whether you don't have a disability. And for people that are receiving benefits and they want to work, they have that extra consideration when pursuing work. And so the way to address that is through benefits counseling, to find out, okay, how will work affect my benefits? Because benefits as well are an important piece of a person's life. And Anne talked about the process for getting on benefits. And it's a scary process. It's a long process. And it's not something that someone wants to lose and then have nothing if they decide not to work. And so benefits counseling is really a way to address that and get those questions answered. So what is benefits counseling? It's good to know what we're talking about today. Benefits counseling is also known as benefits planning. Those two terms are interchangeable. But it's a service, an actual service that you go and you get. And it helps individuals with disabilities and their families or their support systems understand how employment or other life decisions like education or maybe getting married, how all of that can impact their benefits. And when we talk about benefits, in this presentation, we're talking about benefits that are typically received from the federal government or state government, or maybe a local agency or a local county government. They're benefits that support a person's basic needs. And so that could be cash assistance if someone gets monthly, or it could be food assistance that a person gets. There's all kinds of examples. And some of the examples, definitely not all of them, but some of the big ones that you hear about are listed here for you. The two biggest ones that we will be addressing a little bit later are SSI and SSDI. SSDI stands for Social Security Disability Insurance, and SSI stands for Supplemental Security Income. And those are probably the two more well-known because they are the ones that typically people receive, that cash assistance and access to healthcare. A couple of other examples are SNAP, that's food stamps. SNAP is just another acronym. We like, as Ann mentioned, we like our acronyms when in the government systems. So food stamps is an example. There's low-income energy assistance. There's housing assistance. Those aren't even listed here. And then big pieces is people's health coverage. Those are typically Medicare or some version of Medicaid. In our state alone, in Colorado, we have a lot of different kinds of Medicaid. And so there's a lot of different things to consider when someone is receiving any combination of those benefits and they want to pursue work. So what is benefits counseling? Really, the service that you get through benefits counseling, it's going to provide you, or the person that's on benefits, is going to provide them with a clear and a personalized plan to help them address those fears and concerns that they might have about either their benefit going down in the amount that they receive or their level of coverage, or losing benefits altogether when they make those life decisions like education and work is what we're really focused on today. And that's what benefits counseling does. It's clear and it's personalized to any one person's situation. It can also provide individuals and their families with informed choice when they want to pursue employment. Ann mentioned it before, there's so many misconceptions out there. I've been doing benefits counseling for 17, almost 18 years now, and the misconceptions outnumber the truths. And so it's really important that you go see a certified benefits counselor. They're going to give you the full, accurate, up-to-date picture. And that means that that person truly has informed choice when they pursue employment, and then they can truly make a full decision on how they want to pursue that. And work is why benefits counseling is so important. Work, we've said it a few times, work, whether it's paid or unpaid, is good for our health and it's good for our well-being, and anyone should have that opportunity if they want. Work contributes to happiness, to our confidence, our self-esteem, and then our bank accounts. This is another opportunity. If you want to type in the chat why you might want to work or why you work, type that in the chat and share that with us. We all have a lot of different reasons for work and its importance. That being said, work is important. We want people to be able to have that opportunity. On the other end of it, benefits counseling is also important because of that benefit safety net. Benefits like SSI, SSDI, the health coverage, Medicare and Medicaid, often provide economic stability and health stability. That type of stability gives a person mental and physical well-being as well. It gives people a sense of security. SSI and SSDI, those two big ones we keep mentioning, those provide income for the basic needs, that food, that clothing, that shelter. and access to health insurance. And those programs, all of these programs that we've talked about, and even some that we haven't mentioned, are ways that people receive those benefits and live independently, or at least integrated in their communities. And so people don't want to lose that. We don't want people to lose that. So benefits counseling is a way to learn and make that choice. How do I work off of relying on benefits? How do I, maybe I want to work and have my benefits at the same time, or maybe I just want to work, or maybe I learn about everything and I decide I don't want to work. That's all that informed choice, and people should have that opportunity. So the way to do that, again, is through benefits counseling. The studies show that benefits counseling, when a person gets a solid benefits counseling service, that personalized and clear plan, more people choose to work. And that's a lot of those misconceptions out there, is why people limit work or think they can't work. And so benefits counseling promotes that. More people are going to choose work. People get jobs faster. That fear is lessened. I don't know that the fear is ever gone about how work's going to affect benefits, but that fear is lessened. And so people get jobs faster because they know going in how work and their benefits are going to interact. People often make more money. And so people are often going out and choosing careers versus choosing the next job to pay the next bill. People that don't get benefits planning are more likely to go out and just get the next job to pay the bill that's past due and then quit before they think it's going to affect their benefits. And really, that's not the way to go, because there's always effects, and you just want to be informed. And so benefits counseling is really the way to do that. So when do you get benefits counseling? Anytime employment is being considered, anytime employment's a part of the conversation, benefits counseling should be a part of the conversation as well. And Ann and I are biased about that because we're benefits counselors, but anytime employment is in the mix, benefits counseling should be a part of the discussion. That could be prior to seeking employment or education or whatever that life choice is. And that's probably the most optimum time, is to start from the beginning and know from there right up front how your informed choice or that you have informed choice and what that's going to be. So that's prior to seeking employment. If you're in the middle of a job search right now, if you're working with vocational rehabilitation or another agency and they're helping you look for employment, or you're looking on your own, you should have benefits counseling in your conversation, because you want to know as well how work affects that benefit. Ann works for DVR, the Division of Voc Rehab, and that is also when you should be accessing benefits counseling. When you become eligible for the Division of Voc Rehab Services, or DVR services, you can access benefits counseling at that point. Ann can always talk with you about that and how that process works. And so anytime you're working with DVR, you should be accessing benefits counseling. If you've gotten a job, maybe you're going to start next week, maybe you're going to start in 2 weeks, maybe you just started, and you haven't seen a benefits counselor, but you're on benefits, I'm going to beg you to go see a benefits counselor. Get that information that's so important to you, so you're fully informed. And then if you're already working and changes occur, you can seek out a benefits counselor there as well. I know in this time of COVID, especially back even earlier this year, there were a lot of changes happening with people's employment. Maybe it was that people were being laid off, or maybe that's happening now, and people need to access unemployment insurance, and that can mix in with benefits. Maybe you're in an essential industry, especially coming into the holidays, like delivery or packaging or grocery stores, things like that. Maybe you're in that field and your employer is asking you to work more hours because they need you, but you're scared to do that. You see a benefits counselor if that fear is because of your benefits. That's another great opportunity to do that. Maybe you're offered a raise, an extra couple dollars an hour if you're hourly, because you're working during a time of COVID, that's another great opportunity to check with that benefits counselor to see how all of that will interact. And then we have one age group on here listed, transition age students. And those are people between the ages of 14 and 24. And that employment group or group of individuals is important because there's a lot of transitions outside of employment that happen when people transition to being an adult, which happens between the ages of 14 and 24 at age 18. And so a benefits counselor can talk with you about that as well. And then I'll stress one more time, anytime employment is part of the conversation, benefits counseling should be as well. So how do you access it? We have a couple of different or a few different ways here in Colorado that we can access benefits counseling. One of them is through what's called the WIPA project, yet another acronym that we're throwing at you. WIPA stands for Work Incentive Planning and Assistance. You don't have to even remember WIPA. Well, you can remember WIPA, don't you have to remember what it stands for. Social Security funds WIPA projects in all 50 states. Because they fund and pay for that service to happen, the service is free for anybody that accesses. It's a free service. However, because Social Security pays for it, they get to say the what, why, when, and how. They get to say the criteria for who gets benefits counseling through that service, and they get to say in what order. And so to get WIPA benefits counseling, you have to be eligible for those two big benefits, that SSI and SSDI that we talked about. And that was supplemental security income and Social Security disability insurance. So you have to be eligible for one of those two to get free benefits counseling through WIPA. Another way that you can access benefits counseling that I've already talked about is through DVR, or the Division of Voc Rehab, who Ann works for again. With DVR, like I said before, you can access benefits counseling as soon as you're determined eligible. And the nice thing about that is that you don't have to be eligible for SSI or SSDI benefits to get that service. DVR is going to pay for that service if you're looking for work and you're on a benefit and you want to access it at that point. So that's no requirement for SSI or SSDI. The service is still free to you. DVR is paying for it at that point. There are other options to pay for benefits counseling. The resource that Ann mentioned earlier, our benefits counseling guide, we're going to show you a picture of that here in a couple slides. But you can contact any vendor that's listed on that guide and ask them how you can access benefits counseling. You can private pay to the agency. You would work it out with that agency. And other options do exist. There have been employers that have paid for benefits counseling as well. So that's something that you can all access. And don't let that scare you away. Just call one of those vendors, call Ann or call myself, and we can help you learn how to access benefits counseling the best way that works for you. And we've said it a couple of times, but certification is everything. People that are certified have been tried, tested, and they are up to date. I always tell the story when I first went to classes. I went to a week worth of classes before I tested and stuff. And I came back to my employer basically in tears saying that I wasn't smart enough to do the job. As it turns out, that's not accurate, but it's a lot of information. And so I want to tell you that because if someone's gotten certified, they've been tried and they've been tested and they're up to date. Everybody that's certified is required to complete testing, and they're required to complete and pass testing on continuing education units that are specific to our field, to benefits and work. So get certified benefits counseling. It helps deliver a standard message across the field, and it helps dispel those misconceptions that are out there. So lastly, how do you access it? You've either gotten this guide or you're going to get this guide after our presentation today. This is just the front page. It talks about the what, the when about benefits counseling, and it lists all of the vendors. It lists all of the WIPA funded vendors from Social Security. It lists all of our DVR funded vendors. And by vendor, I mean those are our providers, the people that are out providing benefits counseling services. and you'll have access to that guide. I do want to say that this guide is very fluid in who is providing service. So we're constantly adding people and changing a few things on there. So you get the guide today. It'll be a PDF version, but to always make sure you have the most updated version of the guide, go to the website that's listed here on the bottom of the screen. I'm going to put that in the chat real quick as well. So you have that. But that's going to be the most updated version of that guide. So with that, I'm going to transition back to Anne, and she's going to talk a little bit about the benefits and work.
Great, thank you, Melanie. And before I get into that, I just want to address a couple things in the chat that I saw while Melanie was presenting. I think Monica, Susanna, and audience member Melanie have had some great feedback in the chat. I do want to mention self-employment is a great option for people with disabilities because it does allow that flexibility. If you're having a day where you have no energy or you're having eye fatigue or whatever the case may be, that self-employment can be a great thing for that. DVR has a self-employment program that provides funding for startup costs for business. So I just want to put that out there. The other thing I think—
And I'll add real quick too, if you
Yeah.
don't mind, the certified benefits counselors will talk with you about self-employment as well. We're trained in that area as well. And self-employment does look different from regular employment. So it's not the same. And so you want to access your certified benefits counselor.
Good point. Another thing I think Susanna might have brought up is vision therapy or assistive technology. And those are things I always have to be careful because I hate to say DVR is going to pay for it because then that's all everybody hears. But we do pay for things that people need to be successful at work. Assistive technology is a huge one. So let's say you need a special monitor because of your eye fatigue, or you need it could be a number of things. You need a special light, or maybe you have an aversion to fragrances, or it can be anything. There are a lot of times DVR can help pay for that. And we have paid for vision therapy as well. Up here, previous to my current role, I worked with a lot of elite athletes who experienced a brain injury, and they need vision therapy. And so we have paid for that. So I don't want the message to be DVR pays for this because it's very individualized. We do, we look at the person, what do they need, and we can pay for those items. So
yeah, and I'll add too that we do also have, in a few slides, we're going to be talking about some Social Security work incentive programs that can also help in a way, we won't go into too much detail today, but in a way they can help pay for, if you're paying for those items, you can use that expense with your Social Security benefits and how they interact with work. So we'll be addressing that very lightly in a few slides.
And so just jumping into this slide, we've kind of already talked about it, but those two main disability benefits are supplemental security income and Social Security disability insurance. Sometimes people get them confused. Even people who receive the benefit will come to a benefits counselor and say, well, SSI. And it turns out after the benefits counselor has verified with Social Security, they in fact have SSDI or vice versa. So a lot of times, again, highlighting the importance of those benefits counselors is that people often don't even know the benefits they have or the benefits that they could be eligible for, which the benefits counselors help with too. But how can you tell the difference between these two? They are very different in terms of how income is treated and eligibility requirements. And so the biggest difference, or the easiest way to tell the difference between the two is that word insurance for SSDI. So SSDI is when you're eligible for, when you meet the disability criteria of Social Security, but you've also worked enough to be in what they call insured status. And so you have to work a certain number of quarters and earn a certain amount of money depending on your age to qualify for SSDI. This is that same pot of money that your retirement is. So I don't know if they still actually send out letters, but if you've ever received one of those letters from Social Security that says, this is what you will get if you retire at full retirement age, this is what you will get if you became disabled. And it has those monthly amounts. That is that pot of money that you have paid into through your FICA taxes at your employment. And so the Social Security Administration is always going to look to see if a person is eligible for SSDI first. And SSDI, because you are an insured person through your work and FICA taxes, does not care how much money you have in the bank, how many homes, resources, assets that you have. So Melanie always likes to say, technically, you could be Bill Gates free with that kind of money and still qualify for SSDI if you have paid in. Whereas SSI is for folks who either do not have a work history at all or have not built up enough of a work history to qualify for SSDI. SSI is very much based on your income and resources. You have to have a very limited income, very low resources to qualify. So there are people who apply for Social Security and possibly meet the disability criteria, but have too many resources to qualify for SSI. Just to let you know, SSI is designed to pay for basic needs like food and shelter. And this year, SSI is $783 a month. So you can see how it's very, very low. But again, those are the major differences. And then how income is calculated, et cetera, is very, very different. The other two lesser known, I guess, benefits are listed on the screen, and I won't go into those in a lot of detail, except to say that they are when you are drawing off someone else's records. That CDB is kind of confusing because it says childhood. It is for adults who experienced a disability as a child, and they are drawing off a parent's work record who is either disabled, deceased, or retired. And so again, there's a lot of different benefits through Social Security, and they're very, very different, which again just underscores the need for benefits counseling to figure all this stuff out. And so on the next slide, there are ties to health insurance and for each program. So starting with SSI, in Colorado, we're very lucky to have great Medicaid programs and many Medicaid programs for people with disabilities. And Melanie's going to talk a little bit about the buy-in program later. But if you are eligible for SSI in Colorado, you are automatically eligible for Medicaid health insurance. And so those are tied, and we'll talk more about what happens when you go to work on SSI. You can get your Medicaid, and so it's great. SSDI is tied to Medicare, but there is a waiting period from the time of entitlement. So sometimes people have to wait. It depends on when Social Security goes back and determines their date of entitlement, but there's a 24-month waiting period for a person to be eligible for Medicare. And that also stays when you're working, and we'll talk about that too. So you finally get your SSI or SSDI after however long, and you want to go to work. Are you sure I can work? Yes, you can, if you want to. Anybody who wants to, can. Social Security has work incentives that they sometimes also call employment supports to assist people with SSI and SSDI become self-sufficient through work. And so we're going to talk about those a little bit. And again, this is a very, very brief overview just to give you a little snippet into the world of work incentives. So SSDI, let's take an example of a person who is approved for SSDI. They have not yet worked. There is a timeline of work incentives that a person with SSDI can utilize to really improve their financial outcome. A person receiving SSDI cash payments who has not worked since they received it has an entire year of trying out work while they're still going to get that cash SSDI payment. So there's two work incentives that we won't go into, but that means that a person can go out if they're able and they want to get a full-time job. They get a full-time job for $50,000 a year. For that year, they're going to get their salary from work and they're going to get their cash check from SSDI. And so you can imagine the average SSDI payment, I think, is around $1,100 a month. So that person's working, getting their 50 grand, getting around, I'm not great at math in my head, but $11,000 to $12,000 in their SSDI, so that they can use to save or, you know, whatever their financial goals are. That's huge. That is a super powerful work incentive. So they can really have the opportunity to try out work without jeopardizing that benefit, and that's what they're worried about. Also, not everyone wants to go back full-time or is even sure they can go back full-time. And so there's an amount that Social Security looks at called SGA, Substantial Gainful Activity, not super important, but that you understand that acronym. However, this year for non-blind people, it is $1,260 a month. If you work under that, nothing changes, nothing happens. You're gonna still get that SSDI check every month. And even if you go over, based on that timeline of work incentives, you're still eligible for SSDI. They don't just say, oh, you're working, you're done. That's what we really want to show you, is that there's a lot of great work incentives for people to be able to try out work and jeopardize that SSDI. And then for SSI, it's different, but what they use is a calculation. Let's say a person with SSI goes and gets a job and they're going to make $1,000 a month gross wages. They have some disregards and things that they count and don't count. But basically, if you're going to go earn $1,000 a month with your SSI, they're going to reduce your SSI payment by a little less than half of that. But what that means is that every person on SSI is going to be better off financially by working, in terms of that calculation. They'll almost double their monthly income if they work. So they're always going to be better off financially by working. Let's say a person does go to work, you can see those numbers on the screen, and working full-time, or they're working a job where they're making more than that $1,651 a month. So their SSI would go down to zero. Many people with SSI are more worried about losing their Medicaid than they are worried about losing that $783 a month in cash payments that they receive. So they are automatically placed into another door into Medicaid, and they can earn up to almost 35 grand a year and keep that Medicaid. So their Medicaid is not going to go away. Melanie's going to talk in a bit about the Medicaid buy-in program that they would be eligible for if they make more than that. And so a person is pretty well covered with Medicaid in the state of Colorado, because we're very lucky to have such a great program. And so again, if somebody wants to work part-time and they're making less than that $1 a month, they will keep some cash payment of their SSI.
Yeah, and I was going to just address a quick question or a comment, I should say, in the chat. And I don't know that I'm keeping up on all the chats. You guys are lighting it up, which is awesome. But the comment is from M, and it's, in my experience, 1 year was not enough time to figure out employment. It is hard to live off a job under $1,200 where I live. If you have a minimum wage job at 20 hours a week, you are already over that amount. And I just want to reiterate to to everyone listening is that what we're going over today is just the very, 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 very light basics. It's just, we want to give you just enough information to get you to think, hey, I want to pursue work because there's more out there than what I'm aware of. And this comment doesn't address whether this person's on SSI or SSDI or both, but both programs have protections and additional programs that we're not going to even be able to talk about today, where you could actually earn more or learn from a benefits counselor how to kind of manipulate your situation to what best works for you financially. So don't give up on an opportunity for work before you meet a benefits counselor to, again, have a fully informed choice. So, and with that, I'm going to jump to just a couple of other programs that we're going to mention today. And there are other work incentives. Work incentives, as we've indicated, are incentives. They're meant to encourage people to work. Social Security wants people to work. Work is such a positive thing in people's lives, and it really can be, and it really helps people improve their financial well-being. So a few of those, again, these are not all of the work incentives. I just picked a couple to highlight, or a few to highlight. One of them is a PASS plan. That's a plan to achieve self-support. That's a way to set aside money that you're earning, and Social Security will kind of pretend it's not there. And it can be used to increase your work, to start a business, to maybe get equipment for a job. Maybe you want to become a hairdresser and all that equipment costs a lot of money. A PASS plan is a way to do that. Another one is impairment related work expenses. This is something that we kind of talked about earlier. If you pay for something that you need, and you need that item because of your disability, and that item is necessary for you to work, then what you pay for that item can be subtracted off what Social Security considers as your work income. And so some examples, I've listed a bunch here. It could be, these are just random, but prescription medications is probably the most common and the easiest to understand. If you're paying for a prescription medication and that's prescribed to you because of your health and because of your disability, then the cost of that medication, Social Security will consider that much less of your income. So if you're out earning $1,500 a month, they'll consider $1,400 of it. So that's just a brief example. Another one is student earned income exclusion, another acronym, SEIE. This is for people that receive SSI benefits. They're under the age of 22. They get to exclude, or I should say Social Security kind of pretends the money's not there when you go to work, and it's a pretty good amount. And so that's something to consider if you're under the age of 20, up through the age of 22, I should say. Another one is subsidy. Subsidy is if you go to work and you need extra assistance on the job. Maybe that's a job coach through Voc Rehab, or maybe you need to alter the traditional work job duties, I should say, because of your disability. Maybe a coworker covers parts of your job duties for you, but you're still getting paid the full amount. A subsidy is a way that Social Security will say, okay, you're going to work and you're getting paid the full amount, but you're not quite doing the full job duties. Maybe you're doing 80% of them. Then Social Security would only consider 80% of your income instead of the full 100%. So that's just another one. I'm going through these pretty quickly. If you want to read more about them and you want to read more government speak, I should say, it's the government trying to not be governmenty, but that they are. There's the Social Security Red Book, and the link is here. When I get done talking, I'll add that in the chat, and it will also be in your resource guide that you've gotten from today. You can go to that Red Book and read about all of the work incentives that are available for SSI and SSDI when you go to work. So with Medicare and Medicaid, there's also protections there. With Medicare, you get that with SSDI, just as a reminder. And Medicare will stick around for at least 93 months, and that's the minimum. Most people get more than that 93 months of coverage, and that's even after some of the timeline that Ann mentioned earlier. So 93 months equates to 7 3/4 years, so almost 8 years of coverage of Medicare. The catch, of course, is that you got to pay for it. It has a premium. The monthly premium right now is $144.60. The 2021 numbers just came out. I actually don't know those off the top of my head. We can get that to you if you're interested. But anyways, a benefits counselor can talk to you about all of these intricacies and even how to get your Medicare B premium paid for.
Melanie, somebody had a quick question.
Okay.
If a benefits counselor takes into account tax aspects, depending on extra earnings, 85% of your SS is taxable.
Say that again, depending on what?
It's in the chat. Depending on extra earnings, 85% of your Social Security is taxable, was a question.
Oh, okay. So what a benefits counselor will do is they'll look at the taxes on your income, your work income, but we don't get into taxes too in depth. A lot of cases I would refer to a tax professional or working with a tax professional if it gets really complicated. If the situation isn't too complicated, we can address taxes. Taxes can be a pretty gnarly thing in addition to benefits. So it depends on how intricate the tax situation is looking. We're not trained in taxes. We're trained to look at employment, how your employment is taxed and how that fits into the scenario. But if we're looking at outside of that, then there may be a referral to a tax professional as well. Ann, would you add anything to that?
No, I think, yeah, you're spot on.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Excuse me, I can't chat, so I have a question.
Okay,
It's about Medicaid. I'm on a adult disability work program. And
Okay.
at the moment, I was doing okay with it, but my disability has grown increasingly worse. And I believe I need to probably talk to somebody. Is there programs for adults to continue having their Medicaid? I'm becoming worse. Help me with words, please. Benefits without having to work.
to get your Medicaid benefits to continue after work or to get them back?
To continue my benefits without working. They have me in a program where I have to work now.
Oh, okay.
But it's becoming increasingly more difficult for me to work.
I see. Okay.
I was a gig worker and
okay.
driving, but it's not safe for me to drive people now.
Okay. And you were on benefits or you're still on benefits prior to working?
Repeat that for me.
Actually, let me tell you this. You can access a benefits counselor, excuse me, to find out how your Medicaid can continue. Because if you're on Medicaid now and you're in a work program that's either part of a Medicaid program, there's likely a way for you to stay on that Medicaid. We'd have to look at your situation, your full situation, and see what doorway of Medicaid you got through to get that Medicaid access. And even if you're not on Medicaid, but you're in a work program and you may need to apply for Medicaid, you can reach out to myself or Ann. We can get you a referral for that, or you could reach out to one of the vendors on that guide, one of those benefits counselors, and they can walk you through it or get you to the right person as well to apply for a version of Medicaid. Or maybe we can get you a resource too if you needed to apply for benefits altogether, maybe the whole package, maybe SSI, SSDI, Medicare.
No,
Medicaid.
I have SSDI.
Okay,
I have
so yeah,
SSDI.
so you would want to see a benefits counselor. Yep, and they can talk
Yes.
with you about that. Totally.
Okay,
Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks for asking that question.
thank you.
Yep. In the essence of time, I'm going to kind of breeze through this next slide because Anne's already talked about it a little bit. But Medicaid also continues with work, with a person's choice to work and increase earnings. Just in a nutshell, you can earn up to just under $35,000, or just over, I should say, $34,000 a year. You're still going to receive an SSI payment up to $1,651 a month gross earnings. And so Medicaid continues there. And then in Colorado, we have access to another program that's, I think, pretty awesome because a lot of other states don't have it, something as good as ours. But we have what's called the Medicaid buy-in program, where if you're working and you have a disability, you can actually keep Medicaid or purchase Medicaid coverage up to almost $10,000 a month in gross earnings. And they have a bunch of exclusions. They have a fancy calculator, not fancy, it's actually a simple calculation that they use to figure out if you can purchase Medicaid. And yeah, you may have to pay for Medicaid if you're earning that $9,000 a month. But you could also get it for free. The monthly premium for Medicaid and to buy it in Colorado ranges from $0 a month to $200 a month, depending on what your total financial or your total income looks like. So we have a great Medicaid buy-in program in Colorado that that is underutilized, and we want it to stick around, so we want people to use it. In your resource guide, you'll get a great little video that the Lieutenant Governor has done promoting the Medicaid buy-in program. We also have a couple of links to some resources for more information. And then, of course, you can also always talk to Anne and I about these programs as well. So with that, you can have some resources for benefits, and Anne's going to talk about the first one.
Yeah, and this is just a reminder again, use those certified benefits counselors to really peel back the layers. Even each of your questions in the chat and Yogi's question are so complex, and they really have to know the full picture to be able to give an accurate answer. And so hopefully we've answered the bullet points of, what, when, how, why, and how it benefits, the benefits of working, and also the work incentives that are available. I did want to address a couple of the questions in the chat that we can answer quickly. And, someone asked if CPAs are aware of benefits intricacies, and I would say on the whole, no. There might be a couple of specialty accountants that work with people with disabilities who are self-employed or wage employed. But what I have seen is that benefits counselors can work, who are working with the person can also meet with that CPA. And so the CPA has the tax background, benefits counselor has the benefits background, and they can pool their information to help the person with those tax issues and other things like that.
And it sounds like,
yeah.
I was going to say, sounds like BIAC can also help you find your tax related resources. Jamie's provided a number in the chat, and they have resource navigators that can help you look into that as well. So please remember BIAC as a great resource for you as well.
Yeah. And Tasha has a really good question. If you have kids, does this change any of your benefits? And the answer is yes and no, depending on the benefit. It definitely will. And not just Social Security benefits, but also those state and local benefits, Medicaid, food stamps, housing, definitely impact it. And so it can get really complex again. And the answer is yes, probably does affect benefits. So, and someone earlier had mentioned student loan forgiveness, and I can definitely help with getting you the information to be able to apply for that. It's for certain, not to get into too much detail, but if you are approved and you have Social Security benefits, it's for folks who are on a certain medical review cycle with Social Security, meaning that Social Security does not expect their condition to ever improve. And also, if you're approved for that TPD, you can not earn very much money for, I believe, 3 years of that time until they have forgiven all of your student loans. So there's a lot of, and a lot of the benefits counselors know about that too, but I'm happy to speak about that. So.
Yep. And benefits counselors too can also address if you have student loans and they're in default. There's a lot of rules within Social Security about what can and can't be garnished related to that. So benefits counselors can address all of that as well.
And I think someone else had asked about COVID and the impact of the pandemic on resources. Obviously, it's changed the way everyone's done business pretty much. As far as resources for employment, they're still out there. They're doing a lot virtually, and they're being very creative with how they're assisting people. Same with my agency, Melanie's agency, everybody. So, and Social Security is also working remotely, and they've had to change some things that they were doing. So I think that the resources are still there. You know, we have heard it is more difficult. It can be more difficult to access just because of virtual and technology and all that kind of stuff.
Yep. But the point is to don't let COVID and the way things changed deter any plans or interest in employment in pursuing your goals, your life goals, your financial goals, your work goals. We can help you get access to resources now. So if and when the time comes that we go back to our new normal or a different normal, you're ready to go and fully informed. So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, and I'm just going to touch on another quick resource that is coming to Colorado. It's such an exciting thing. It's called Colorado DB 101, and it was mentioned in our bios when we first started today. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but the tool is an online or web-based, I should say, tool that will also be accessible. You can access it through your phone, anywhere that has the access to the internet. And it will be online estimators and employment resource tools where anybody and everybody in the state of Colorado, well, actually anywhere, but Coloradans are going to want to do it. They have 24/7, 365 days a year access to explore work, to explore Colorado resources related to work and benefits and how work interacts with benefits. We're not estimated, we're on schedule, but we're not estimated to roll out until November of 2021. And if you want more information or you want to stay up to date on DB 101 and its rollout, then contact me or Ann, and we can get you on a listserv to keep you up to date on that. And we can also do future presentations with your groups and organizations about what DB 101 will look like. So I just wanted to throw that in there since it's an exciting new tool coming up. With that, that is pretty much all we have for you today. I know it looks like the chat's lighting up again, so I don't know if we have any final questions that we want to tackle. The other thing that we can do is take the chat and put it into another additional resource tool for you and answer the questions if there are any that we missed. And add to those, and we can have send that to BIAC for them to send out to all of the participants today as well. So Tina or Jamie, I don't know if you want us to address any more or call it good for today.
You know, as long as if anybody has to jump off, you guys can do that. We thank you for coming today. If Ann and Melanie want to stay on for just a moment, if
Sure.
some people have some lingering questions they'd like to talk about, we're more than happy to, we can give it another 10 minutes to go ahead and address any of those. Thank you both. This was super informative. Just employment is a big piece of the puzzle, I know, for a lot of survivors. So thank you guys so much for giving the resources. Also, everyone that's on, we did send a resource guide with the email that went out this morning. So that also has their information, and a recording of this presentation will be put on our website with the others, hopefully by the middle of next week. It usually takes us a few days to get them transferred over. So it looks like there is a few more in here. So again, if you guys want to tackle any of those, or if anybody wants to unmute as we're nearing the end here and throw out a question, you're more than welcome to do that. And if we can't answer it fairly quickly, then we can give you a resource and who to call next.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, Susanna, please email or give me a call and we can set up a time to. I'm happy to help you with that.
Is that the who do I contact to discuss my individual case? Okay, awesome. I'm trying to scroll up and see where
I know,
we're at with
so many great questions and input. You guys were a wonderful audience.
Yeah, we did talk about what if nobody puts anything in the chat, but you guys killed it. So thank you for that. It makes it so much more of an interactive and so much more educational in real life for those that are listening. So
Melanie, could you give your information out? It looks like somebody was asking how to contact you, and Melanie doesn't work with BIAC, but if you have a slide with your information on it.
Yep, actually let me and I think this is gonna be a lot for the eyes, so close your eyes. I'm gonna scroll up.
I think the first slide had all the information.
Yeah,
It did. There we go. Now you can look at the screen. There it is.
I think their information was in the guide also that we attached
Yes.
to the email
Yeah.
this morning.
Yep, our information is in the guide as well. And the copy of this slideshow, I think you guys get that too. And so we have all of our resources in this slideshow. You can see our contact information is also in the slideshow. So you'll have it you'll have our contact information in a few different places. And then of course, if you have any questions, just let us know and we're happy to hook you up with those resources or get you some answers.
And it looks like Nicole doesn't have video or audio, but Nicole, could you, so I'm not sure if she can hear us, but could you call me or email me?
I'll put that in here.
Oh, okay. Oh, she can
Yeah,
hear.
and
Okay.
Oh, okay. So if your Anne's contact information is ANNE.CHRISTEN@state.co.us, or her phone number, sorry, Anne, I'm talking on your behalf. Her phone number is 303-908-8278. Oh, you can see the video too. Oh, okay.
Oh,
Great.
okay. Oh, gotcha.
I thought maybe you couldn't see that. Sorry. So
Well,
yeah,
and Nicole, I just, it depends on where you live and how old the young adult is and all sorts of different things. So I just want to make sure I give you great information. And so if you can call or email me, we can chat.
Does anybody else have any questions that they want to unmute and ask or type in the chat? Okay, I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Again, both of you, thank you so much for sharing this information. It seems like a lot of people needed it. And this way, hopefully they can move on with contacting you. Or again, we put BIAC's number in there. Our resource navigators are more than happy to assist with any question. So it doesn't have to be DVR specific. It doesn't have to be SSDI specific. We are kind of the to-go resource. So the go-to. So please don't hesitate to give BIAC a call, and we're happy to help navigate this. I know it's a lot of information.
it is. We like to, I should say the government, not maybe us, but the government likes to throw as many acronyms and complexities out there and make it as confusing as possible, I swear. I probably shouldn't say that, but that's what it seems like. And so we're happy, BIAC is happy, Anne and I are always happy to help you pursue your dreams. So please do.
Yeah, thank you both. You guys have a great weekend, and hopefully we'll get to do more of this in the future.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you for your help.
You bet.